ECU?
R.
Do you bleed purple and gold?
Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Watch the show live on Facebook
and at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It's a fresh edition of Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday, January 13th edition of the program. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you got a question, comment, concern, drop it in the chat. We'll get to it over the course of the next hour. Remember, as always, to subscribe to our channels, whether it be our Apple Podcast, Spotify, Hoist the Colors channels, our 94.3 The Game YouTube channel, which continues to rise in subscribers, or our Facebook pages, where you can catch this show, the Patrick Johnson Show, the Logan Zone, and more. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on all those platforms. As a reminder, we are also continuing to run our 50% off special on hoistthecolors.net, which is the website written side of this program. We can get a little bit more in-depth information for our subscribers. Had our Mitch Griffith story in-depth interview up on Monday that a lot of people have commented and liked what they heard from ECU's new quarterback. What's next for ECU on the quarterback front? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about more. Pirates add some players via the portal yesterday. We kind of hinted at it. Linebackers were coming. They commit. We'll talk about that here in a few seconds. Final playoff game of Wild Card Weekend in the books. Texans Steelers. Of course, my idiot self chose the Steelers. I regretted it as soon as I turned on the game, and Houston ended up winning in a rout due to its dominant defense. The divisional round is set. We'll get into that here. And later in today's show, we're going to start talking some baseball. How badly did the Pirates get snubbed with the preseason top 25 by D1 Baseball? Not included at all. We'll get into that discussion and have an early ECU baseball season outlook. Also, we'll start our player profiles. We'll take a look at some of the incoming guys to start off with. All right, we've got Philip Hilkin, and he is back in the 94.3 The Game studios. Philip, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday, my sir?
Good. I'm excited. Big week in sports coming up. Divisional round set. Your Broncos will be in action at 4:30 on Saturday. We kind of saw that one coming that it was going to be Saturday. Obviously, we did already know, but obviously they weren't going to send the winner of last night's game to a Sunday night followed by a Saturday contest. So it's big. Big college basketball this weekend. I was looking at tonight's slate. It's interesting. The women's team has a huge game against Tulsa. We might get to that at the end of the show. I'm going to go to that. So, and you can hear it right here on 94.3 The Game with Patrick Johnson. So it's going to be a fun sports week, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Pirate women quietly playing really well. Have done a really good job early in conference play. We'll hopefully circle back to that. Just a few notes on a programming standpoint. We're scheduled to have James Gilio back. He's our Hoist the Colors intern. He'll be with us on Wednesday. Looking to catch up with Macy O'Donnell later this week. Of course, we'll have Bobby Harvard on Friday for our Pick'em segment and a lot of football talk as always. Next week, again, we will broadcast early. Our plan is to go 9:30 to 10:30 on Monday because we've got ECU Baseball Media Day. Next Monday, we also are scheduled to have Casey Ramaley with Carolina Curveball next Tuesday. We're going to have a Bucks on the Pond special with Jonathan Wagner and Scott Lorbatcher on Wednesday. Shane Winkler next Thursday. ECU softball coach will be in studio. So we're starting to turn the page to baseball, softball. It's that time of year. We'll continue to touch on the portal, obviously, do a lot of that. But as the playoffs pick up for football and the offseason kind of winds down, we'll continue to turn the page, along with our basketball discussion, to baseball and softball. All right, Kenny Curlin's in the chat. He says, when will we hear from the new coaching staff on the football front? So, Kenny, I did email Malcolm Gray, the great Malcolm Gray, over with ECU, and put in a request to interview basically any of the new football coaches. I was told they have the convention going through today, the American Football Coaches Convention going through today. They have recruiting going through this weekend. Once we get through this week, he's going to look at scheduling some things out. Those guys are getting a lot of requests. You've got 5 new coaches right now on staff. Obviously, the coordinators. You've also got a new running backs coach, O-line coach, and receivers coach. So we're going to do our best, even if it's just a phone interview, 15, 20-minute segment to introduce these guys to Pirate Nation. That's our goal, probably starting next week to get those guys involved. But just they've had so much recruiting going on right now, so many different things happening that's kind of on hold for the time being. But we are efforting, and we are working on that. Kenny Curlins. All right, we are going to talk some ECU baseball in a little bit. We'll talk some recruiting here in a few minutes as well. But the big news is the divisional round is set in the NFL. And unfortunately, I believe we only have one Pirate remaining because obviously Keaton Mitchell did not make the playoffs. Zay Jones did not make the playoffs. So if you're an ECU fan and you don't have an NFL team to root for the Denver Broncos, baby. Jaquan McMillan, who, by the way, is the second highest Denver Broncos defensive player in terms of overall grade from Pro Football Focus for the entire season, one of the best nickels in the league. He will be playing host along with the rest of the Broncos to the Buffalo Bills for the divisional round. That will be a 4:30 kickoff, as Philip said. San Fran at Seattle will be an 8 o'clock kickoff. Houston at New England next Sunday at 3. And the Rams at the Bears. So we'll be talking a lot of NFL just throughout this week. But, man, it should be a fun divisional round. Anything to add last night, Philip, as we saw? Really, again, I just want to punch myself for picking the Steelers. I just had a feeling Rodgers would go out with more of a fight, but the Texans, they didn't look great, but their anytime your defense scores twice, it's going to look more lopsided than it was. So they lived up to the hype defensively going into Pittsburgh.
They did, because, anybody, like you said, who watched it knows this game was pretty tight, pretty late, right? They had those two defensive scores there at the end of the contest. Of course, they were already up 2 scores when that happened, but they had just scored to go up 2 scores when that happened. So, look, it came down to who was going to hold on to the football better and who was going to profit off the turnovers and the mistakes of the other team, or better yet, off their defense's ability to create turnovers. Earlier in the game, that first half, Houston was 6 of 8 on third down and only had 7 points. Why? They're turning the football over. However, Pittsburgh only had 6 points at halftime. They were not taking advantage of those turnovers, where Houston, on the other hand, did take advantage more of Pittsburgh's turnovers, and part reason because their defense just went ahead and scored and didn't give it to the offense. But at the end of the day, in a game that's a defensive slugfest, when you get a short field, you got to take advantage of it. Houston did a better job than Pittsburgh. Houston won the football game, and they're on to next week.
Kenny did ask, is this a contract year for Jaquan McMillan? So he will not be an unrestricted free agent. He's actually going to be a restricted free agent. But Denver is going to have to pay him something to keep him, obviously. Teams, as a restricted free agent, other teams can match what ECU offered, or ECU, what the Broncos offer, and they can make a decision from there. So as a restricted free agent,
I think Denver can match what the opponent offers. And if they match it, he has to stay with Denver. But if they don't match it, he can go.
You're correct. Yep. I got that backwards. So he's not technically free to just go out and sign with anybody that he is, but Denver can match whatever. So it's a little bit different than being just an unrestricted free agent. So as a guy who was an undrafted free agent, first you become an exclusive rights free agent. That was last year. Now he's a restricted free agent. And once he gets past this deal, he would be an unrestricted free agent. So it's complicated, but the main thing is the main thing. Philip, he's going to get paid this offseason one way or the other. Now, like slot corners, I don't think they're making a ton of money, but like still, he's putting himself at a point now where somebody's going to pay him because he's produced for 2-3 years now at a very high level.
Yeah, and the thing is, slot corners are making more than they used to. Yeah, maybe not to the level of what they used to, not to the level of what the outside guys are making, but you line up a lot of good receivers in the slot these days. It's not just a number 3. It's a true number 1 slot guy. Now, a team would rather have a really, really good cover linebacker, I think, than a solid slot corner. That way he's big enough to fill the box, but can also go out there and guard the slot receiver or guard the tight end. But if it's a team who feels like Jaquan is their best opportunity to have that 5th coverage guy, and he's better than any of the coverage linebackers on their team, then they may be willing to give him a hefty paycheck, and I hope he stays in Denver. But with that being said, Denver's got a lot of really, really good pieces and have paid a lot to that offensive line. They're going to have to pay that quarterback soon, too, as well. So it would not surprise me, unfortunately, for you, Stephen, if Jaquan will be packing his bags this offseason for a new place.
That's why I've held off on getting the Jaquan McMillan Denver Broncos jersey, because I don't want to buy it just for him to go somewhere else. Now, if he signs a long-term deal, I may get it, because even if he leaves, it'll be cool as an ECU tie. They did draft Jahdae Barron in the first round, and Jaquan has outperformed him the entire year. So, they got to find a way to get Jahdae Barron on the field as a first-round pick. So, Riley Maul still under contract. Also,
I was about to ask, when is his contract up? Do you know?
He's got at least another year after this one. So, they're pretty deep at DB, and I just think they may pay other players more, but they love Jaquan, man. So it's one of those things that they have the chance to bring him back at the right price. They will probably try and do it. All right. Kenny also wants to know, is Aaron Rodgers done? I mean, I don't know. I don't really have many thoughts on this, probably, but the whole ESPN camera following him around was a little much for me yesterday, but I get why they did it. But I personally think he's done. I think he's been done. I do think he played better than I thought this year, but I think it's time for A-Rod to hang him up.
I think so. I think when he came into the year, he thought this is going to be his last season. Now, to your point, Stephen, he played better. I think the reason Kenny's asking this question, there are rumors. I think if he comes back, he does come back as a member of the Steelers. I think he would not go learn a whole new playbook, a whole new system, all that. With that being said, if I had to bet, I'm going to lean towards no, but it would not shock me either if he's back in Pittsburgh for one more year. Some of my friends who are Steeler fans do want him. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe you do a farewell tour, one last ride, but I don't know, man. Go out while you're still relevant, I guess.
Pirate fan 52092 says both him and Mike Tomlin should be done. I mean, you say that, but if that happens, then who's coaching and who's quarterbacking the Steelers? Be careful what you wish for is all I will say. I mean,
Harbaugh
it's not
to the Steelers.
I mean, if they could get Harbaugh, then I guess you go for it. But then still, who's the quarterback? It's not as easy as it seems to replace those both. There you go. Trinidad, who, by the way, is, I think, still going after the NCAA to try to get that extra year, and will probably win. All right, the big news on the ECU front yesterday. We'll circle back, talk some more divisional stuff a little bit later or throughout this week. Big news on the ECU front. Pirates signed a pair of linebackers who happen to be brothers, Cruz Law and Cade Law from Memphis. Of course, they follow over defensive coordinator Jordan Hankins. So you like what you're getting here. You're getting two guys who have been in Hankins' system. Now, Cade Law started his career as a Vanderbilt baseball player. I'll try to remember both these guys' stories because there's a lot to it. Cade Law started his career as a Vanderbilt baseball player, left Vandy midway through the 2023 season to play football. He went to North Carolina. He played there that fall as a special teams player, played there the following fall as a special teams player and reserve linebacker. Cruz Law joined UNC in 2024. He was a high-profile recruit. Both these guys are from Nashville, Tennessee. Cruz out of high school had offers from Cincinnati, Duke, Georgia Tech, Miami, UNC, Missouri, Ole Miss, USC, and Vandy. He ended up going to UNC with his brother Cade, redshirted in 2024. Both these guys then transferred to Memphis this past year. Cade got hurt, so he missed the season. He'll be coming back. Now, Cruz, as a redshirt freshman at Memphis, played a pretty high amount of snaps for a redshirt freshman. 10 appearances on defense, 164 defensive snaps, 23 tackles, missed just 3 stops according to Pro Football Focus, with 14 stops near the line of scrimmage or behind it, and posted a 69.2 defensive grade. Really good run defensive linebacker grade according to PFF. So, again, not likely getting Zakai Barker, but you signed 2 linebackers here that's familiar with your linebackers coach. You bring back DJ Johnson. You bring back Jackson Barker. You bring in a couple of freshmen who I'm really high on. Jordan Miles is another guy going into his second year. So this is a position that may not look the sexiest on paper, but for my intents and purposes, as far as evaluating the roster for next year, like the linebacker play was just okay this past season. I think at worst it's going to be equal to that, if not better. I think the upside of the room overall is much higher, even without getting Zakai Barker back. So there's your latest on the linebacker front for ECU football. The other thing I wanted to mention, it has not been announced yet. ECU will add a transfer punter for my knowledge, who I don't know if he'll be announced as a signee like most of these guys, but he has committed, and they will add a transfer punter. It sounds like ECU is going to roll with the kicking situation. They are scheduled to bring back Andrew Conrad and Noah Perez. As of now, those guys will compete. Everett Scott, also your kickoff specialist, scheduled to be back too. We've seen both Conrad, both Perez make kicks in games. Conrad has dealt with injuries in the past. It sounds like they're going to roll with that unless they get another slam dunk kicker. Because, I mean, guys, there's really just not that many proven kickers on the market. And if there are, they're going to, like, for example, Arkansas just signed a Tennessee kicker and another kicker from North Carolina. So they signed two kickers that they probably paid some money to. And so, like, you just got to prioritize what you're going to spend money on, what you're going to use your scholarships for. And I think right now ECU will run it back with Conrad, with Perez, with Scott, and then bring in the punter, probably bring in a transfer long snapper as well. So, again, the additions of those linebackers, the addition of that punter, you're looking at 20 transfer portal additions right now. And now we just wait on the quarterback. There's still a few other spots left on the portal front. It is a dead period right now. You've got the coaches convention going on. So there's no visits right now, no visits at the earliest until Thursday. And so you may see ECU bring in a player or two this weekend to try to get them in after the start of the semester, which had already gotten underway this past Monday. But more than not, the roster we see now, besides a likely quarterback addition or two, is what we're going to see in the fall for the Pirates. So that's kind of where we stand on the football front. Again, they will save a spot or two for potential late additions outside of quarterback as well. So there's your latest on the football transfer portal news. And in addition to talking a lot of baseball, which we'll be doing here on the other side of the break, we'll start really diving into position by position, what ECU added, what ECU lost, and kind of break those things down in the coming days, coming weeks, heading into spring ball. So still a lot of football talk heading your way, even though the roster is starting to finalize. Let's get a break in. We'll come back. ECU not ranked in the preseason top 25. We touched on it a little bit yesterday, but we'll dive into it. Did the Pirates really get snubbed? Does it even matter? We'll break all that down and more. This is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers. burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arg!
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Alan, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
For over 51 years, Parker's Barbecue has brought families together with our award-winning whole hog barbecue and fried chicken. Tradition is important at Parker's Barbecue, and for 3 generations, the Parker's Way has stood the test of time. Whether you visit our dining rooms or drive-thrus, use our on-site catering, or even use our nationwide shipping, the hospitality, barbecue, fried chicken, homemade sides are still the same.
We are the Parker family. Come in and let our family show you. This is the Parker's Way.
Climb aboard as we set sail and hoist the colors. Ahar, matey! Back to the show with Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back in. Hoist the colors here. We are 6 days away from East Carolina Baseball Media Day, which we'll obviously talk to Cliff Godwin, Austin Knight, other Pirate assistants as well. I'll have to look at the full list here in a minute. I know we've got Jack Herring, Austin Irby on the list. I'm sure Braden Burris and others. Should be a fun day next Monday. So let's get into some baseball talk. We are 32 days away from East Carolina opening its season, and we touched on this a little bit yesterday. Pirates not in the preseason top 25. And look, I'm just going to say this up front. It really doesn't matter at all from a standpoint of how the season is going to play out. Like, this isn't necessarily where you have like a college football playoff ranking and perception is reality. Like, if ECU goes out and they play well this season and they take care of business in the non-conference against UNC Coastal, they'll quickly rise up the rankings. But I do think this is a little bit of disrespect from the standpoint of, as we bring in Philip Pilkington here back in the 94.3 The Game studios. Like, ECU baseball has been so good for so long under Cliff Godwin. I think they've kind of earned the benefit of the doubt. Like, I look at this top 25 that D1 Baseball put out, and they've got Texas A&M ranked 25th in the preseason. Last year, Texas A&M 30 and 26 overall. And I'm sure they made some great additions in the offseason, but also they're ranked 25th probably because they're Texas A&M, and they historically are really good. They've got a big fan base, and they're probably like, oh, arbitrarily, let's just rank them 25th so we can have them on our list. And I feel like ECU, given what's returning, given how they finished last year with a young team, given what they added, like, to me, should be a preseason top 25 team. Now, admittedly, I'm biased. I don't follow Southern Miss baseball in the offseason. They're ranked 20th. I don't follow Georgia baseball. They're preseason ranked 15th. Oregon State preseason ranked 12th. Like, I don't know as much about these teams as Aaron Fitt and those guys do, but I am a little bit disappointed in kind of the disrespect that the Pirates were not on that preseason top 25. That's just my take on it. How do you feel, Philip, from your vantage point?
Yeah, the tough thing, I think, is, say we're ranked and Texas A&M's not. Like you said, they've got the history. They're going to feel the same way, right? There's a lot of teams, kind of right there around that area of 20 that are historically good. So, unfortunately, they're going to give the nod to the teams in the bigger conference. I did just go down through Southern Miss's roster. Not a whole heck of a lot of transfers on that roster. So, looks like they're returning a good amount from last season. So, that's got, something to do with them being up there. Obviously, Coastal, the only other non-power team ranked, they're number 6. They made it to Omaha. We have no problem with that team being ranked in the top 10. Yeah, I mean, it's a little annoying, but hey, look, this is 2 years in a row we've not been ranked. Last year, we showed why until the conference tournament. It was not a good baseball season. This year, hey, look, when you bring in a lot of transfers, and we bring in some, I guess, more unproven transfers than some of these other teams. Some of these teams that are ahead of us are bringing in guys that played at other power schools that maybe just were a big fish in a small pond, or a big fish in what should be a big pond because they're in the SEC, but they're not any good. We're bringing in guys who are big fishes in small ponds, who are on smaller conferences, played less competition, and due to that, you're going to unfortunately get the kind of the snub. But hey, like you and I talked about yesterday, Got Coastal early, got Carolina early. It ain't going to be hard to be ranked by the end of March.
ECU, from a returning standpoint, just a quick, brief outlook on the season, and we'll dive more into positions as we move forward. But I look at the Pirates, and I think compared to most teams in the American, they're going to be returning a lot of their core. You look at last year, Braden Burris, freshman All-American. He's back. Austin Irby. I don't know if he was technically a freshman All-American, but by the end of the year, he was playing like one. 303 with 12 bombs. LSU tried to get him. Couldn't get him. Braden Burris could have gone anywhere in the country. He chose to come back. Jack Herring, one of the better stories of the season. Obviously, Colby Wallace back. You've got catcher Walker Barron back. And you got other pieces like Alex Peltier and others that have returned that are potentially taking a step up. And then the big one on the mound, obviously, is Ethan Norby. You have a bona fide ace, in my opinion, who went out and proved it in the highest level against the Florida Gators in a regional opener and had double-digit strikeouts in that game. Sean Jenkins had a really solid freshman season. He's back. Now you obviously have more pieces to replace after that. But from a core standpoint, I find it hard to believe other teams in the American return that much. And then I think what ECU did in the portal with Cliff Godwin kind of adjusting to the times, and another guy that maybe we haven't even really talked about that's coming back is Braxton Trammell, who was great before his injury, and he's back as well. So I just feel like the core is good. The returners are solid. There were a couple pitchers you would like to have back that didn't work out, but that's just going to be a sign of the times. And then from a position player standpoint, adding, which we'll get into here in a little bit, I just think there's a lot of reasons for optimism. And yeah, the season didn't go last year how anybody wanted to during the regular season. We do have to remember the Pirates did finish under 500 in a not-so-good American Conference. And that's a pretty large sample size during the regular season. Now, they went on a run in the conference tournament, and they also played well, very well, in the regional, taking Coastal to the wire a couple times. Obviously, the first game got away from them, but was a good game for 6 innings. So I just think if they can find a way, and my biggest question is how they played in the postseason last year, Philip, like how much of that was the team maturing and the talent really showing through, or is that just did that happen to be a 2-3 week span where they just got hot at the right time? I lean more towards the former. I think really you have legit talent there, and it all came together more so than just being hot at the right time. But that's I think we'll know that a month into the season, and I think if ECU plays like it did the end of last year, they'll be ranked by that month. By the time that month passes, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on? Was what we saw somewhat of a fluke, or is that going to be a sign of things to come?
It was not a fluke. There were a couple guys down the stretch that played better than they had early in the season. But for the most part, guys were playing to their potential all year. It just seemed like it never came in the same inning. You may have two guys batting 400, hitting right next to each other, in Braden Burris and, gosh, who else was hitting well and hitting right by him? I don't think whoever it was hitting 400. We had somebody else hitting like 360. I think Colby maybe was batting right next to him in the lineup, but they could never get a hit in the same inning. Or, when one bad inning happened for a pitcher, it wasn't, hey, he let up a bomb. He happened to let up the walk before the bomb. It was just one of those things where I never thought the team was untalented or bad. They just couldn't find ways to win, and I think they matured and they found ways to win late in the season due to, like you said, they gained the maturity. They weren't bad early. They just weren't complete, and they look complete at the end, and most of those guys that were part of that completeness are back.
From a positional player standpoint, I feel good about this team, really good. I think they're going to have 10, 11, 12 capable starters, and they're going to have to find 9 spots for them. The biggest question I have is how does the rotation shake out? I mean, we know Norby is probably going to start on Fridays. Another guy that had the opportunity to go elsewhere got paid quite a bit of money to stay at ECU for his junior season. You would think Sean Jenkins slots in a Saturday or Sunday. And then the Pirates brought in a host of transfers. Frank Saccone, from St. Joe's. I still might be messing up that pronunciation, but experienced starter for St. Joe's. He was their Friday night guy. They brought in also kind of a tweener, so to speak, in Joe Webb from Liberty, who will probably be out of the bullpen but could go long. Gavin Van Kempen, transfer from West Virginia, 6'7", righty, who has the potential to start. They have a promising freshman in Colby Weber, who's 6'7", 200, who showed in the fall he can really be a guy. And then you got the two guys back from injury, Ryan Towers, who probably will be delayed at least into the start of the season unless he's ahead of schedule. And then Brett Antolik, the Texas A&M transfer, who had multiple hip procedures, from my understanding, last year, and has a big arm. And as far as I know, is scheduled to be back. So I just named about 5 or 6 guys, Phillip, that could be potential starters for maybe one rotation spot, assuming Norby and Jenkins are good to go. So, like, for me, you've got a wealth of options. Now, we always say this, and guys get hurt or they underperform, so I'm not going to act like ECU's got the best rotation in college baseball, but, like, there's legit talent there. You're talking about multiple pitchers who are in that 6'6", 6'7" range who can bring gas, who can really pitch. You've got lefties, righties. Like, I just think the staff has options, and now it's just a matter of how does it break out in the preseason. But I don't think there's any real fear for me of not having enough capable pitchers, which has been a problem in the past.
Yeah, it is. It seems like we will have 2 starters and then
2 relievers.
Yeah, you got one guy who's a starter / long reliever, Jake Hunter, that sometimes he starts Sunday and sometimes he throws a crazy amount of innings on Saturday if one of the starters get – and you want one Jake Hunter. Actually, you want 3 of them. But the problem is we've only had one of them. And then you've got like 2 high leverage relievers, and that's it. And it seems like it's been like 5 guys that you 100% trust. If, like I said, if some of these guys, if we can just have 2 really good starters, and if we can have 3 of these guys pan out to be a Jake Hunter, where you can trust him for 4 innings, and hey, over 4 innings, he's going to give up 2 runs. You can live with that in college baseball. That can be one of those guys can be your Sunday guy. One of those guys can be your midweek guy, because midweeks are important, especially when you're East Carolina, and your midweek opponents are better than your weekend opponents once league play starts. And then one of those guys can just be your floater. Where does he go in? Does he throw 2 innings Friday, 2 innings Sunday? Do him and said Sunday starter pair 7 or 8 innings together? If you can be in that spot with these guys, you'd love it. And then you still obviously need the high leverage guys. Not like you said, not all these guys are going to pan out, but I think going into the season, some years it's like, we know there's 2. There's going to be Jake Hunter and hopefully 1 more. And then 2 high leverage guys. At least now we have like 4 or 5 guys who could potentially fill into that Jake Hunter role.
The other thing you like with this transfer portal class, ECU brought in some, again, guys who are either from the Division II ranks, so we'll see how they translate, but guys who were bona fide closers for their respective teams. For example, Gavin Marley comes over from Lenore Ryan, experienced right-hander on the back end of the bullpen. Thomas Paxson from Belmont Abbey, another right-hander. You also brought in Tennessee transfer Luke Payne, who at times looked really good during the fall, left-hander. So you brought in some legit back-end guys, too, along with Joe Webb, who has bullpen experience. And then the other guy who I didn't even mention, Nick Moran, had as good a fall as anybody as a left-handed starter. So I just think there's a ton of options on the pitching side. We'll see how it shakes out. We'll continue to dive more into that. But there's just kind of an early soft outlook, I would say, on Pirate Baseball. We'll dive more into the weeds here, including in our next segment. We're gonna start our player profiles. We're going to go in numerical order. We'll knock out a couple today. We'll start with number 0, Jeff Sabader. We'll get into him. He's a transfer coming in, competing for the outfield, center field job. So we'll get into that, a whole lot more on the other side. Your questions as well. This is Hoist the Colors on Tuesday.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown. At National Finance, we're all about hometown support, just like ECU football. National Finance helps us win on and off the field. They've got your back when you need it most. Fast, easy personal loans for life's big plays. And just like us, they're committed to Eastern North Carolina. National Finance, proud supporters of ECU athletics. Visit nfcmoney.com for loans as fast as today.
Welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here on a Tuesday. We've come full circle. We've made it through a lot of the ECU football early offseason. Now we're talking baseball, Pirate baseball, 32 days away. We just had an early outlook, just a very brief look. We'll take a look at some players here in a second. A few comments from the chat. Kenny wants to know who are the leaders on this 2026 team. We'll get a better understanding of that during media day, but generally, Kenny, I would expect Braden Burris, despite being a sophomore, really emerged last year as a leader. Obviously, Ethan Norby on the pitching staff. Sean Jenkins going into his second year should be a guy. We'll see who else is cited as a leader. Colby Wallace, pitcher or position player, certainly a candidate there. And just guys who have been around. Walker Barron at catcher. Cliff Godwin lets his players lead, especially those that have been there, done that, who are older, that he trusts. And so it will be a very player-led team once again, and I'm sure we'll get a better understanding of that on Monday during media day. A-Win also wants us to rep perfect game over D1 baseball. Look, even if they have the Pirates ranked, I can't do it. I've got to stand by my word. I am a D1 baseball guy. I disagree with some of their stuff, but for the most part, they do an incredible job of covering the entire game. They have the most resources. I think they do the most fair coverage. I have personally never seen a perfect game writer at an ECU baseball game that I know of. I've seen Aaron Fitt. I've seen other guys at D1 work ECU baseball, work other games. So I'm going to roll with D1 baseball. I'm going to respect them. They are my official top 25. And as of today, the Pirates are not ranked, and they are being disrespected by D1 baseball. They'll have to prove it on the field this season. All right, Philip Pilkington back in the 94.3 The Game studios. Let's get into our player profiles. Our plan is to do a couple of these guys each day, introduce you to some of the players, specifically some of the new guys coming into the program, so we've got a better feel for the personnel joining the Pirates in 2026. All right, we will start with number 0. Jeff Sabader, I believe is the pronunciation, transfer from Millersville University. a native of Lansdale, Pennsylvania, 5'10", 165-pound outfitter, left-handed hitter. Basically, if you haven't seen the tape of this guy, he's very Lane Hoover-esque. He gets on base. He steals bases. At Millersville University in 2025, he closed his 2-year career ranking 3rd all-time in steals in program history with 96. He batted .367, and he had a .491 on-base percentage. Now, Millersville is a Division II program, but essentially the guy put up just ridiculous numbers. Could not be thrown out in the base pass. Great base stealer. Electric center fielder. Triples machine. Contact guy. So I'm curious, Philip, as obviously we'll dive more into Sabader, and you can give your commentary on him as well. Like, I've heard Braden Burris could play second. He could play center. I've heard Sabader could play center. I've heard you've got Alex Peltier back. He's probably got louder tools. He could play center. There's a freshman stud, Grady Linehan, who could play center. So, like, they've got 3 or 4 options in center. But if they want to go with the Lane Hoover-esque guy, this is your guy. And I have a hard time believing if he plays anything like Hoover that he's not going to be in the lineup on most days.
Yeah. The tough thing with a kid coming up from the D2 ranks is how do they hit the D1 pitching? It's going to be a different monster. And look, he's a contact guy on top of that, right? Not a home run guy. So what's going to happen when he sees a slider with stuff, a guy who has a slider that's stronger than he's ever seen before and he swings and misses a few times? Is that going to get in his head? You hope not. With that being said, a fly ball is a fly ball. He's a great defender. 90 feet is 90 feet. He's a great base stealer. I think this guy has a position on this Pirate team. It may be a late game pinch runner followed by, hey, you stay in to play defense. I think that's the floor. The ceiling is Lane Hoover. So we hope we get Lane Hoover. If not, this is a really deep outfield. We feel good about it. And this is a young man that you can put in late in games in big scenarios who will be good at what he is good at. And maybe you just don't put him in other positions like having to bat in a clutch situation. But that's only if, like I said, the hitting doesn't work out.
You look at his stats, and I always am curious. He had 96 steals compared to 11 caught stealing in his time in 2 seasons. So, I mean, that's obviously a very high percentage. How does that translate to Division I and Division II catching is such a different animal, but like speed is speed. So how much of this, and this is something that the coaching staff got a firsthand look at in the fall. Every time I saw him in the fall, he just looked solid. I mean, didn't blow you away, but like Lane Hoover never blew you away with his contact. So some of this is just going to be maybe you're going to get a better feel in inter squads, but also you're just going to have to throw him out there in a game, see what he can handle under the lights. Some guys who dominate the D2 level, they play to an even higher ceiling once they get in front of a Division I crowd and see more people, see more intensity, the intensity pickup. Other guys, it's just too big. So, like, I'm not saying this will be one way or the other. I just haven't seen enough of a sample size, but he's another player that obviously could be a big role on this team. And like Philip said, at the least, he's going to be a pinch runner, defensive type replacement player for the Pirates. Which, how do we feel, by the way, about wearing 0 in baseball? I can't say I'm a fan.
Yeah, Keenan Bowman wore 0 last year.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
You got to be a dog if you're going to wear 0. That's all I got to say.
I honestly, I'm not a huge fan of 0. I mean, maybe basketball, it's not bad. I don't like it in football now. Hockey would look really stupid. I don't know. This kid's good. He's good. If he's not, he's not. I don't care. He can wear Infinity for all I care on the back of his uniform, or 267 as long as he can play.
Looks like he wore 11 for Millersville. Obviously, Peltier has that number for East Carolina. All right, number 2 on our numerical countdown is another newcomer, a player I'm very excited about, Carlos Hakame, USF transfer, 5'9", 181 pounds from Venezuela. Attended Christopher Columbus High School before spending a couple years with Miami-Dade Community College and then South Florida. So for USF last year, Hakame hit .309, 50 hits, 34 RBIs, 9 doubles, 2 triples, 4 homers. He walked 21 times and was hit by a pitch 8 times, stole 6 of 8 bases, posted an OPS a little under 900. Really good defensive player. Probably profiles better as a second baseman. He really played well during the ECU series late in the season. He kind of caught the attention of ECU as a result, ended up coming here. Profiles best as a second baseman, can play shortstop. You also have Matt Lashley, a JUCO transfer, competing for that shortstop job. And so, again, a lot of this is, what does Braden Burris end up doing? Does he end up playing second? Does he end up playing center? Is he at a corner outfield spot in order to save his body maybe a little bit? I don't know what they're going to do there. They have options. Hakame is a guy who could play short, second, maybe even third, maybe even DH, although you probably want to save more power for that spot. But Hakame, another versatile infielder, good on-base guy, good contact guy, good defender. Again, it's just how the card's going to stack up here, Phillip. Another really quality addition, it seems like on paper. I'll say, too, from interviewing Carlos, tremendous human being. I think he'll be a great fit in the locker room. So looking forward to seeing his role this year.
You know, we don't know where a lot of these chips are going to fall, like you said. And how these chips fall opening weekend are not how they're going to fall come Memorial Day weekend when the conference tournament's being played. We know that for sure. We do. This could be a guy who's a stud off the bat. Could be a guy who takes some time. But also, I do know this. You're going to need 4 infielders outside of your first baseman. Between second, third, short. You're going to need your starters. And then you're going to need a guy who can, hey, said starter took one off the elbow. Said starter tweaked something around at second base. Said starter needs a day off. You're going to have 4, preferably 5 guys that you can trust at those spots. Now, it does seem like he's probably a little more of a middle infielder than a third baseman, and you could have a different backup third baseman as opposed to middle infielder. But at the end of the day, he does kind of, I hate to use the word utility because he is only an infielder, but from what we understand, he can play multiple positions in the infield, and he's done it in this conference. He's seen this conference's pitching. He's seen this conference's hitting. He's seen this conference's catching when he's trying to steal bags. This is a guy who's going to be a part of this roster. He's going to be a part of maybe not the everyday, but at least the everyday, maybe not the everyday lineup, but you know he's going to be available when the rosters get shrunk for conference play. We expect him to be there. We expect him to be a vital part. It's a matter, I think, of where and when, not if, for this guy, and really good pickup for Cliff Godwin and his staff.
One of the things that stood out most to me about Carlos when talking to him was how excited he was to play in a legit baseball environment. He said he grew up in Venezuela. He would go to the games. He would play in the games. People were crazy. And then he went to community college and he went to USF where there's like no fans. So he's like, I just can't wait to play in front of actual fans that care about baseball again. So Carlos Hakame, a positive addition to ECU's locker room and to its program. He will compete for playing time in the middle infield and potentially a few other areas as well. All right, let's get a break in. When we come back, I just read a tweet that I've got to bring up after this break about potential redshirt year eligibility changing. We'll get a take on that. Also, a big game in women's basketball tonight. ECU hosting Tulsa. We'll talk about what that means with the ladies playing really well. After this is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville patio and hearth shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors
Everything
today.
you need
We
to
wanna
know
be
in the
your
world of
trusted choice
ECU
agency.
athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Final segment here, Hoist the Colors. We did get a question from Jay Hobbs, who will be the sluggers for this year's ECU baseball team in our last segment. We expect Austin Irby, Colby Wallace, Braxton Trammell to lead the way there. Burris maybe to hit for a little bit more pop. Also some newcomers to watch as well in that regard. Vogaley, a JUCO transfer, outfield, DH type, has some pop. Blade Carver as well. So they should have some guys who can hit for some power this year. And then with Jake Gautreaux coming in, I would expect maybe a surge in power as well with his background, teaching guys to hit the long ball. But again, we'll dive more into that as we go on with our baseball previews. One thing I saw before we took a break that I'm just kind of startled at is this tweet from David Ubben, who covers college football for The Athletic. He says, quote, "The FBS head coaches voted unanimously to expand the eligibility for redshirt years from 4 games to 9. This is just a recommendation that will be put forth to the Division I committees." Philip Pilkington rejoins us here. All right, so look, I'm all for guys getting some playing experience while redshirting. 4 games seems to be fair. Even 5, 6, that's half a season. That could be fine. If we're going to go to 9, then let's just give everybody a blanket redshirt year. What are we even doing here?
We're on our way to 5 years of eligibility. This is not new. Now, the whole redshirt 9 games is new, but it seems like they had been leaning towards the 5 years of eligibility the second this whole JUCO years don't count crap came out. Look, we've had 4 years forever. Why do we have to make it stupid? Okay, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. It's how it is in high school. It's how it's been in college. I'm all for a guy getting some experience. I did think, hey, you play one play, you burn your red shirt was stupid. I think it's something that actually baseball and basketball need to try and adopt. Hey, you can play X amount of minutes or X amount of innings and still redshirt. I would be okay with that. But X doesn't need to be 3/4 of the dang season. What are we doing? This is stupid. This is absolutely stupid. If you can do this, just give them the 5th year. However, the 5th year's stupid too. The whole thing's dumb. Everybody's got this problem is the athletes cry boo-hoo, poor me, and all these morons are just bowing down to them. Why do we got to bow down to people nowadays? Nobody's got a backbone anymore. That's the problem with this country. This is dumb.
Nobody has a backbone. Philip, a lot of wisdom in what you said. I'm almost more in favor at this point of going to a snap count more so than games if we're worried about having having not enough guys for like special teams.
I can
Maybe
get
we go
behind
to a
that.
snap count. Yeah, I mean, like, hey, you played 10% of or less of your team's snaps during the season, you can redshirt rather than games. But hey, whatever. I don't make the rules. All right, big women's basketball game tonight in Minges Coliseum. It'll be a 6 o'clock tip-off. ECU hosting Tulsa. The ladies have won 7 of their last 8 games, including Wichita State, a 27-point win on the road this past Saturday. Tulsa comes into town 3-0 in the league, 11-4 overall. They're one of 3 3-0 teams. ECU 3-1 in the conference. If they can win tonight, they'll be right outside of first place. Kim McNeil has done a heck of a job. Obviously, like any sport, you're having turnover. You're having new players have to step up into new roles. They have really found some things that work here, Phillip. And this is a big one in Minges tonight. If they can find a way to steal it, you get Temple at home after that, which is a winnable game. So Pirates probably an underdog tonight, but a big game in Minges.
It is, and this has been my favorite Kim McNeil team so far. Maybe it's not quite the excitement of the Danae McNeil days when they could just steal the ball and hit layups, but I think half-court offense and half-court defense combination, this is the best team she's had. I think they can go out there and compete with anybody in this conference. Yes, they are a dog. I don't think it's going to be a massive upset if they win because I do have a lot of faith in this roster. With that being said, this is the kind of games you need to win to prove, hey, we're not a backdoor contender in the conference. We're a true contender in the conference. Right now, I think their team's a backdoor, but, hey, this could be a statement game for the ball club tonight.
If you want to see some good basketball in Minges, Kim McNeil's squad is playing well right now. Again, 6 o'clock tip-off. And you can hear it on 94.3 The Game with Patrick Johnson on the call. All right, we got to get out of here. That is the end of our show. Phillip, appreciate you as always, my guy.
Yeah, it was fun.
Great
Thanks,
job.
man.
Tomorrow we'll have James Gilio join us. We'll recap the women's game. We'll also get some more playoff talk in, also the latest on the portal, a couple more baseball profiles. We'll see you on Wednesday, 12 noon. Thanks for listening.